Okay, let's jump right in. We're going to unpack a very specific type of musical record today.
Right.
One that asks for a bit more of your attention than just a standard album.
A lot more.
We're talking about the concept album.
Which is really, it's not a playlist at all. It's a complete singular story or idea.
Exactly. The whole point is for you, the listener, to hear it from start to finish.
Just like reading a book, chapter by chapter.
If you don't, you miss the full message.
And if you skip a song, you're not just skipping a track.
No. You're skipping a whole scene in the story.
And to make sure that story holds together, artists use all these unifying techniques.
Like recurring melodies or lyrics that pop up again and again.
Mm-hmm. It creates this single unified piece of art where the whole thing is so much bigger than its individual songs.
So let's get into it. What exactly is a concept album, and where did this idea even come from?
Well, the definition itself is pretty simple. It's an album that uses one single theme or one continuous story to explore a topic.
But in a lot of detail.
In deep detail, yeah. It gives musicians this permission to build something really big.
And the idea is older than you'd think.
Yeah.
Right? We tend to connect it with, like, 70s rock music.
We do, but the groundwork for it started way earlier. Some music experts actually trace it all the way back to classical music cycles.
You mean like Beethoven or Mahler?
Exactly. Grouping pieces of music together to tell one emotional story or follow an arc.
Okay, but when did it cross over into, popular music?
That happened around the middle of the 20th century. In the 40s and 50s, you had folk and jazz artists starting to group songs by a mood.
Not just by which one would be a hit single.
Right. Frank Sinatra is a huge example here. He made these early themed records, albums about loneliness or albums about travel.
So the whole record was designed to put you in a specific emotional state.
Precisely. They weren't quite stories yet, but they were definitely curated experiences. But the real aha moment,
The thing that made it all possible.
it was purely technological.
The invention of the long-playing record. LP.
Yes. And it's hard to overstate how big of a deal that was. Before the LP, you were limited to just a few minutes of music per side.
Which is perfect for a radio single,
Yeah.
but terrible for telling a long story.
It totally changed the game. Suddenly, an artist had up to 45 minutes of continuous audio to work with.
That's a huge canvas.
It was a creative explosion. In the 60s and 70s, bands finally felt like they could use the studio to build these huge, ambitious worlds.
And it's a format that's still around today. I mean, you see it in pop and hip-hop.
For sure. It proves that people still want these big, unified statements from the artists they love.
So let's talk about that storytelling canvas. What kind of subjects do these albums actually cover?
The range is incredible, but they all have that one tight focus.
So you might have one that follows a fictional character on some kind of journey.
Right, a character dealing with big ideas like alienation or finding their identity, or sometimes it's not a character at all.
Sometimes it's just about an emotion.
Yeah, an entire album dedicated to exploring, say, grief or joy.
And then there are the ones that make a bigger statement.
Oh, absolutely. Albums that are deep dives into social issues or our relationship with technology or even philosophical questions.
You even get albums that are basically musical versions of books or historical events.
And that central theme, it acts as a guide for the songwriter. It keeps everything focused, It makes sure every single song is serving the main story.
But sometimes that story gets so detailed, it crosses a line and becomes something else.
It becomes what we call a rock opera.
Okay, so what's the difference?
A rock opera is the most dramatic version of a concept album. It tells a literal story with a plot that moves forward with every track.
It has characters, maybe even dialogue.
Yes. It's basically a piece of musical theater, but on a record. It feels like a movie you listen to.
So it's less about a general theme and more about a real, tangible plot.
A clear beginning, middle, and end. Think of The Who's Tommy. You're following a character's entire life. It combines that raw rock energy with the structure of theater.
It sounds incredibly ambitious, and
Yeah.
you'd need some serious musical tricks to make that work.
You do. You need a whole toolbox to make an album feel like one seamless piece.
And the most important tool in that box is probably the leitmotif.
The leitmotif, absolutely.
Let's break that down. What is it?
So it's a term borrowed from classical opera. A leitmotif is a short, specific musical phrase. It could be a melody or just a few chords that represents one thing.
One thing. Like a character.
It could be a character or an emotion, an idea, even a place, and that little musical phrase comes back again and again throughout the album.
So if the album is about a character's struggle with anxiety,
You might have this one little unsettling melody that plays every single time that character feels doubt.
even if the songs sound totally different otherwise?
Exactly. It's a musical clue. It stitches the whole record together and reminds you of what's happening under the surface.
It's brilliant. What else?
Another big one is just creating a seamless flow, making one song blend directly into the next without any silence.
So you can't get distracted. It keeps you locked in the story.
It keeps you in the world. And they build that world with sound design, too.
You mean like sound effects?
Yeah, putting in the sound of rain or footsteps or city noises to create a sense of place. Even the instruments are chosen carefully to match the theme.
And all of this extends beyond the music, right? The visuals are just as important.
The visual world is critical. The album artwork, the booklets inside with lyrics and drawings.
Especially back in the vinyl era.
Oh yeah, those big gatefold covers were part of the experience. The art often has hidden clues or symbols that add another layer to the story.
So if you're listening to David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust, the album cover immediately tells you about this futuristic alien character before a single note plays.
It makes the whole thing immersive. It's not just something you listen to, it's a world you enter.
So this obviously requires a lot from the listener, and maybe even more from the artist. Why would they go through this process? It must take years.
It does. Let's start with the listener. It requires active listening. You can't just have it on in the background,
You have to commit to it, usually in one sitting.
which is a little countercultural today with streaming and shuffle culture.
For sure. The whole system is designed for you to jump from song to song. But with an album like Pink Floyd's The Wall, if you skip tracks,
You lose the entire story. The whole psychological journey just falls apart.
a lot of fans will actually sit down with the lyric booklet and treat it like they're watching a film.
And when you do that, the payoff is huge. You form a much deeper connection to the music. It encourages discussion, people sharing theories online.
It builds a real community. So what about for the artists? Why do it?
I think, first, it's a declaration of ambition. It lets them break free from the limits of the 3-minute radio single.
They get to experiment with longer songs, more complex lyrics.
Exactly. They get the freedom to really explore a deep theme without worrying if it's catchy enough for the radio.
It's a way for them to prove themselves as serious composers, not just pop stars.
It is, and that level of commitment builds an incredibly loyal fan base, people who appreciate that hard work.
And in the end, it creates a legacy.
A powerful, cohesive statement that stands the test of time. It cements an artist's place in history.
Which brings us to that legacy. I mean, some of the most famous and influential albums ever made are concept albums.
No question. We already mentioned The Who's Tommy, which basically defined the rock opera, or Bowie's Ziggy Stardust, creating an entire fictional band.
And you have to mention Pink Floyd's The Wall. I mean, that album spent hundreds of weeks on the charts.
It's a towering achievement. These albums didn't just sell well, they changed what people thought was possible in a recording studio.
And the idea is still evolving, right? It's adapted to the digital age.
Seamlessly. In hip-hop, you have artists like Kendrick Lamar. An album like Good Kid, M.A.A.D. City is a perfect modern concept album.
It's a complex story about his life, with characters and vignettes that connect across the whole record.
Then in pop, you have the rise of the visual album.
Like Beyoncé's Lemonade.
A perfect example. Every single song has its own music video, and all those videos are connected into one powerful visual story.
It's not just an audio experience anymore.
It's an audio-visual one. So even though streaming focuses on single tracks, the full unified album is still seen as this huge artistic achievement.
And the tradition keeps evolving.
It does, and you can only imagine where it goes next. With new tech like virtual reality, maybe one day you'll be able to literally step inside the world of an album.
Or interactive albums where you can choose how the story unfolds.
Who knows? But the core idea of the concept album proves that deep, complex storytelling in music is timeless.
It connects the power of music and narrative into one complete experience.
It's really the ultimate artistic statement.
Yeah.
But here's a final thought for you to chew on. If, in today's streaming world, every artist feels like they have to release these thematically cohesive, visually unified projects just to stand out, does the term concept album even mean anything special anymore? Or has everything become a concept album?
Something to mull over.